The Pentagon, September 11, 2001, is considered the single most divisive issue within the 9/11 truth movement. When American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, nobody knew about the conspiracy between the CIA and the Saudi link, which was the CIA intentionally withholding information from the FBI and State Department about two al-Qaeda operatives living inside the United States. The two men were Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, who were also involved with the hijacking of Flight 77. George Tenet, the director of Central Intelligence, openly committed perjury when asked by Carl Levin of the Joint House Inquiry in 2003 whether or not anyone had read a cable pertaining to the two men who were coming inside the United States in January of 2000. The two men were Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Meanwhile, over 50 agents from the CIA Counterintelligence Center had indeed read that cable.
Cable that came in from the field at the time, sir, was labeled information only, and I know that nobody read that cable.
But my question is, do you know why the FBI was not notified of the fact that an al-Qaeda operative now was known in March of the year 2000 to have entered the United States? Why was the CIA, why did the CIA not specifically notify the CIA? That's my question. The FBI.
Sir, if we weren't aware of it, when it came in the headquarters, we couldn't have notified them. Nobody read that cable in March, in the March timeframe.
So that the cable that said that Hazmi had entered the United States came to your headquarters, nobody read it?
Yes, sir. It was an information-only cable from the field, and nobody read that information-only cable.
Should it have been read?
Yes, of course, in hindsight.
And should it have been read at the time?
Of course it should have been read.
All right. My question is, do you know who should have read it?
I don't know that, sir.
Levin continued to vigorously question Director Tenet about why CIA analysts like Clark Shannon from the Counterterrorism Center about why information regarding al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi couldn't be shared with the FBI at a June 11, 2001 meeting between the CIA and FBI. Tenet again lies to Levin, saying he never told Shannon not to share the information.
Let me read you the staff report. The CIA analyst who attended the New York meeting acknowledged to the Joint Inquiry staff that he had seen the information regarding al-Mihdhar's U.S. visa and al-Hazmi's travel to the United States, but he stated that he would not share information outside of the CIA unless he had authority to do so. That's what he told our staff. Do you disagree with that?
Sir, I've talked to him as well.
Do you disagree that he said that to our staff?
Well, no, I don't disagree. He said it to your staff. I'm telling you what
Did
he
he
told
tell you something differently?
Yes, sir. He gave me a different perspective.
So he told you and he told our staff something differently.
Well,
okay.
But I think it's important, sir.
Yeah, but our time is limited. So
Meanwhile, the FBI's Pent Bomb investigation uncovered an interesting financial link between Saudi government officials and Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Bandar bin Sultan, the U.S. Saudi ambassador whose wife, Haifa bin Faisal, had sent monthly payments between $3,000 to $5,000 to the wife of another Saudi national, Osama Busnan, who once threw a housewarming party for Egyptian radical Omar Abdul Rahman, who then gave the money to Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Busnan would be an associate for Omar al-Bayoumi, who was also a Saudi national and government official for the Saudi Arabian Presidency of Civil Aviation, for which he was an employee there since 1975. A man by the name of Hamid al-Rashid, who paid al-Bayoumi salary, whose son's passport just happened to be also on a CD-ROM, which also had the passports of 9/11 hijackers Khalid al-Mihdhar, Salim al-Hazmi, and Abdul Aziz al-Amari. Al-Bayoumi had met with Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi in the Mediterranean Cafe restaurant in January of 2000. He would also provide both men with an apartment, paying its first 2 months' rent, and also helping them get their driver's licenses, while also giving them money as well. Al-Bayoumi would later deny all of this to the FBI and 9/11 Commission. Fahad al-Dumeri, an imam at the King Fahd Mosque in Los Angeles, would also be known to al-Bayoumi and was the one who provided them lodging for the first 2 weeks as al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi entered the country and told a Tunisian cab driver, Khalid to pick them up from the airport. Al-Thumeri, also a Saudi official, denied ever meeting al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi to 9/11 Commission investigators who noted that al-Thumeri was deceptive. The CIA Saudi link, which shows a massive cover-up from the State Department that remains to this day, would altogether be ignored by the 9/11 truth movement, for they would become riddled in the weeks after the event with outlandish and seemingly infantile theories, one in which that no plane had crashed into the Pentagon because there was no record seen, nor was there any video evidence. This led to many self-appointed truth advocates to espouse and hold lectures throughout the years regarding various fringe scenarios, which ultimately absolved the CIA and Saudis involved with the actual conspiracies that I had mentioned previously. The banality that followed is pretty embarrassing to even witness. Here are just some examples.
The 9/11 truth movement does not need authentic hijackers on the planes in control of the planes. It does not need hijackers on the planes who themselves may have been hijacked by remote controlled planes. It does not depend on any hijackers or anybody else for that matter on the planes that hit or missed their targets. My point here is that you have intelligence agencies setting up patsies who didn't even need to be on the planes. You can just provide whatever proof you want that they were. And even if they were, it doesn't matter because they're controlling the planes, they're controlling the patsies. But the 9/11 truth movement does not depend at all. We're not blaming the hijackers. We're blaming the real perpetrators of 9/11 who simply used those patsies. So this argument put forth again and again and again by this particular individual, Adam, is absolutely off the point. And I don't know why he keeps pushing it, but it is, I hear it like it's just this point. It's irrelevant.
The evidence of the planes that hit the World Trade Centers, they look like drones to me. You know, that flash, even in that first video, does not, you know, it looks.
2002, Thierry Meyssan wrote a book on September 11 entitled The Big Lie. A book that, under the guise of innocent questions, recycles some of the most inflammatory rumors, even suggesting that no plane ever crashed into the Pentagon. When asked what happened to Flight 77, his reply was, "Are these passengers really even dead?"
The witnesses that say they saw a plane actually hit the building. And if people say, well, you're dragging these poor people into this event, how could you? Ultimately, I go back to the people that I have on site saying the terrible things that I have them on record saying, and there's hours upon hours of it. And so, you know, I hate to say it, that's
the Zionists and the Nazis are two sides of the same coin, going back to the treaty that they signed together and officialized with an official seal with the swastika on one side and the Star of David on the other during World War II. You are absolutely correct. And they continued. After World War II, they came to this country. They took over the Plans and Policy Office, as Mae Brussel pointed out, through Fritz Kramer in the Pentagon. They took over our space program. They took over our Central Intelligence Agency. And they are still a fifth column inside of our government, the Zio-Nazis, and they did 9/11.
So how can anyone know whether or not a plane had indeed crashed into the Pentagon? Try asking someone who was actually there.
But I'm curious because many of the people you've talked to, what they've said in other places have, it's, in my opinion, distorted to lend to this conspiracy thought that that a missile or explosions were triggered in the Pentagon. I'm curious, as you were working on this, were you ever dogged by the crowd that's trying to create an alternative history?
Pat and I had a lot of wired discussions about this, and we agreed. We agreed at the end. My approach from the beginning was we need to be aware that those people think what they think, and that they will just probably say we're part of the conspiracy. For the record, we are not part of the conspiracy, and we're not even aware of any conspiracy. But we decided, do we want to make this a kind of an argument for reality, or do we just want to tell the story of what happened there? And so we don't address those theories in the book, and that's very deliberate. We're not trying to prove something that did happen or something that didn't happen. We're trying to tell a story of just tell the story of the people who were there, and if let people make of it what they will.
A quick point on that is, when you read anything that someone who says a plane did not strike the Pentagon, the first question to ask is, have those people ever been to the Pentagon? Were they there? Ed Brinkley, any doubt that a plane hit the Pentagon in your mind? Dean Tills, structural engineer working inside the building? Commander Tarantino, any doubt in your mind? They were there when it happened, right?
You have doubt?
Well, just in case all these people are part of the conspiracy.
No, it's much bigger than that.
We didn't really get as much as we thought we would for going along with it.
Where did the plane debris end up?
The plane debris is everywhere. The pictures that you see where people say, look, there's no plane debris, it's very selective photographs. There's tons of pictures, and we have some of them in the book, where there's debris everywhere. Pictures taken from very far away don't pick up pieces of the plane about the size of the book and smaller, because what the plane did, it was going 500 miles an hour. The majority of the wreckage was inside the building, and then in a fire that was burning at over 1,000 degrees, it didn't look much like plane debris. People compare it to regular plane crashes, but when you look at a plane crash like a commercial airline crashing, usually the pilot's trying to save the plane. That was not the case. Think more of a kamikaze attack on a ship in World War II. These people were intentionally trying to destroy the plane, the building, and everything else in the way. A completely different situation. Just look hard at the evidence and look at it critically, and there's a lot of good sites out there that kind of debunk the myths as well.
To those who are left with questions about 9/11 and want valid answers and information relating to what took place at the Pentagon, or just about 9/11 in general, my advice is to look into the works of those who are reputable researchers who have been around a while, such as D.J. Thermodetonator, also known as Nelson Martins, Ryan Dawson, Paul Thompson, Kevin Fenton, Ray Nolosilski and John Duffy, Robbie and Abby Martin, John Gold, and new people such as Darren Harvey, Sean Russell, and Project for New American Century podcast. They can be found at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and other viral media. At least you will get answers to some of your questions without the unnecessary fantastical nonsense which leads to nowhere.